Alright, I'm going to read from Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. Should be chapter 1. We'll see. We already did the intro, I'm pretty sure. Alright, chapter 1, Wild at Heart. A man's heart reflects the man, Proverbs 27:18. The spiritual life cannot be made suburban. It's always frontier, and we who live in it must accept and even rejoice that it remains untamed. I want to ride to the ridge where the west commences. I can't look at hobbles and I can't stand fences. Don't fence me in. Can't keep me in a box, right? Cool. At last, I am surrounded by wilderness. The wind in the top of the pines behind me sounds like the ocean. Waves are rushing in from the great blue above, cresting upon the ridge of the mountain I have climbed, somewhere in the Sawatch Range of central Colorado. Spreading out below me, the landscape is a sea of sagebrush for mile after lonesome mile. Zane Grey immortalized it as the purple sage, but most of the year it's more of a silver gray. This is a kind of country you could ride across for days on horseback without seeing another living soul. Today I'm on foot. Though the sun is shining this afternoon, it will not warm above 30 here near the Continental Divide, and the sweat I worked up scaling this face is now making me shiver. It is late October and winter is coming on. In the distance, nearly 100 miles south by southwest, the San Juan Mountains are already covered in snow. The aroma of this pungent sage still clings to my jeans, and it clears my head as I gasp for air. In notably short supply at 10,000 feet, I'm forced to rest again. Even though I know that each pause broadens the distance between me and my quarry, still, the advantage has always been his. Though the tracks I found this morning were fresh, only a few hours old, that holds little promise. A bull elk can easily cover miles of rugged country in that amount of time, especially if he is wounded or on the run. The wapiti, as the Indians call him, is one of the most elusive creatures we have left in the lower 48. They are the ghost kings of the high country, more cautious and wary than deer and more difficult to track. They live at higher elevations and travel farther in a day than nearly any other game. The bulls especially seem to carry a sixth sense to human presence. Few times I've gotten close. The next moment they are gone, vanishing silently into aspen groves so thick you wouldn't have believed a rabbit could get through. It wasn't always this way. For centuries, elk lived out on prairies, grazing together on the rich grasses in vast numbers. In the spring of 1805, Meriwether Lewis described passing herds lolling about in the thousands as he made his way in search of a northwest passage. At times the curious wandered so close he could throw sticks at them, like bucolic dairy cows blocking the road. But by the end of the century, westward expansion had pushed the elk high up into the Rocky Mountains. Now they are elusive, hiding out at timberline like outlaws until heavy snows force them down for the winter. If you would seek them now, it is on their terms, and forbidding haunts well beyond the reach of civilization. And that is why I come, and why I linger here still, letting the old bull get away. My hunt, you see, actually has little to do with elk. I knew that before I came. There is something else I am after out here in the wild. I am searching for an even more elusive prey, something that can only be found through the help of wilderness. I am looking for my heart. Wild at Heart. This is the count of the heavens and the earth when they were created. When the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and no shrub of the field had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprung up. For the Lord God had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no man to work on the ground. But streams came up from the earth, and watered the whole surface of the ground. The Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living being. Now the Lord God had planted a garden in the east, in Eden, and there he put the man he had formed. Genesis 2:4-8. Eve was created within the lush beauty of Eden's gardens, but Adam, if you'll notice, was created from the earth itself, from the clay. In the record of our beginnings, the second chapter of Genesis makes it clear man was born from the outback, from the untamed part of creation. Afterward, he was brought to Eden. And ever since then, boys have never been at home indoors, and men have had an unsatiable longing to explore. We long to return. It's when most men come alive. As John Muir said, when a man comes to the mountains, he comes home. The core of a man's heart is undomesticated, and that is good. I am not alive in an office. As one North Face ad has it, I'm not alive in a taxi cab. I'm not alive on a sidewalk. I amen to that. Their conclusion, never stop exploring. My gender seems to need little encouragement. It comes naturally, like our innate love of maps. In 1260, Marco Polo headed off to find China. In 1967, when I was 7, I tried to dig a hole straight through our backyard with my friend Danny Wilson. We gave up about 8 feet, but it made a great fort. Hannibal crosses his famous Alps, and there comes a day in a boy's life when he first crosses the street and enters the company of the great explorers. Scott and Amundsen race for the South Pole. Peary and Cook vie for the North, and when last summer I gave my boys some loose change and permission to ride their bikes down to the shore to buy a soda, you've had thought I'd given them a charter to go find the equator. Magellan sails due west around the tip of South America, despite warnings that he and his crew would drop off the end of the earth, and Huck Finn heads off down the Mississippi, ignoring similar threats. Powell follows the Colorado into the Grand Canyon, even though, because no one has done it before, and everyone is saying it can't be done. And so, my boys and I stood on the bank of the Snake River in the spring of '98, feeling that ancient urge to shove off. Snowmelt was high that year, unusually high, and the river had overflowed its banks and was surging through the trees on both sides. Out in the middle of the river, which is crystal clear in late summer, but the day looked like chocolate milk. Logs were floating down, large tangles of branches bigger than a car, and who knows what else. High and muddy and fast, the Snake was forbidden. No other rafters could be seen. Did I mention it was raining? But we had a brand new canoe, and the paddles were in hand, and sure, I have never floated this Snake in a canoe, nor any other river for that matter, but what the heck. We jumped in and headed off into the unknown, like Livingstone plunging into the interior of dark Africa. Adventure, with all its requisite danger and wilderness, is a deeply spiritual longing written into the soul of man. The masculine heart needs a place where nothing is prefabricated, modular, non-fat, Ziploc, franchised, online, microwavable, where there are no deadlines, cell phones, or committee meetings, where there is room for the soul, where finally geography around us corresponds to the geography of our heart. Look at the heroes of the biblical text. Moses does not encounter the living God at the maw. He finds him, or is found by him, somewhere out in the desert of Sinai, a long way from the comforts of Egypt. The same is true of Jacob, who has his wrestling match with God, not on the living room sofa, but in a wadi somewhere east of the Jabbok in Mesopotamia. Where did the great prophet Elijah go to recover his strength? To the wild, as did John the Baptist and his cousins, Jesus, who was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. Whatever else those explorers were after, they were also searching for themselves. Deep in a man's heart are some fundamental questions that simply cannot be answered at the kitchen table. Who am I? Who am I made of? What am I destined for? It is fear that keeps a man at home where things are neat and orderly and under his control. But the answers to his deepest questions are not to be found on television or in a refrigerator. Out there on the burning desert sands, lost in a trackless waste, Moses received his life mission and purpose. He's called out, called up into something much bigger than he ever imagined, much more serious than a CEO or Prince of Egypt. Under foreign stars, in the dead of night, Jacob received a new name, his real name, a new name, his real name. No longer is he shrewd business negotiator, but now he is one who wrestles with God. The wilderness trial of Christ is, at its core, a test of his identity. If you are who you think you are, if a man is even to find out who he is and what he is here for, he has got to take the journey for himself. He has got to get his heart back. Probably leave it right there. That is chapter 1. That's page 1 through 6. Next one will be westward expansion against the soul and stormy. Yeah, chapters look kind of long. Cool. We'll leave it there. All right. Wild at heart. John Eldredge. See you.